My name is Kristy Fuller, and I am a recovery support specialist at Rushford in Meriden. So, in other states, recovery support specialists are called peer support specialists. We're people who have lived experience in the mental health field, going through inpatient, outpatient treatments, individual therapists, the whole gambit. A lot of people come from a substance use background. A lot of us come from mental health backgrounds. And so our sort of individual unique role is to meet people where they are at when they're going through the mental health system, and to be able to speak from a position of lived experience, knowing that our experience isn't the same as other people's, but I've found that it's a very powerful pathway for people who are feeling overwhelmed by the clinical or medical aspect of it. I met a peer support specialist when I was when I was in an intensive outpatient program at the Institute of Living in Hartford. And she helped me with a challenging interaction that I was having when one of my sisters had a stroke. And we were working through on the phone, my other sister and I, how to handle some emerging issues. And having her there with me while I was going through that was hugely impactful. I had to leave the group session that I was in to make this important phone call. And just having a peer to support me and encourage me and not carry that burden on my own was very instrumental. Nope, that's what drew me to the field. Yeah, and having that one-on-one experience that one day made me want to look into it in more depth. And there's an agency named Advocacy Unlimited. They're based out of Rocky Hill, and they do a lot of the recovery support specialist training and certification. They're who I went through for it, and they're an organization of RSSs of peers. And so basically, the entirety of my training and my experience getting a job in the field comes from other peers. At Rushford, we get state funding for our first episode Psychosis program through DMOS, and Rushford was connected with Mindmap to establish the first episode Psychosis program that I am a part of. And so from day one, Mindmap has been incredibly supportive with helping us to do outreach into the community, with giving us a pathway to direct people who come through our doors or who I meet in the community, to give direction for their families. It can be very challenging working with young adults who want to have independence from their families, but also families who are trying to support these young adults experiencing first episode psychosis. So Mindmap provides a number, a website, a reference for these families who are being isolated from their family members, from their sons, daughters, from their spouses. It's an incredible relief for them to see that there is research, that there is a line and people that they can speak with for that support. When I was in my early 20s, my mother died of gallbladder cancer, and I went into a pretty deep depression and didn't realize that was happening. I'm pretty sure everyone in my family did, but I found my way through that with mindfulness and yoga and meditation. But then a couple years ago, my sister had a stroke while she was on a road trip to visit our uncle in Florida, and she had a car accident in North Carolina, and I got a call from the EMT in the ambulance, and they said, "Your sister's here. She's had a stroke. She is conscious at this moment. She's going into surgery. She'd like to speak to you." And they handed the phone over, and I said, "Hi, Tina." And she said, "Hi, when are you gonna be down here?" So I got in the car and I started driving. Um, the next couple weeks were just emergency after emergency. She survived. We brought her back up to Connecticut, and that's when I realized the trauma that I had been carrying. That's when I realized the overwhelm and the stress that I was under. And gradually, it became more overwhelming. It held me down more. And I had several experiences with auditory hallucinations. Um, I didn't find them disturbing. I was my mother's voice. I found it comforting. I knew she was dead, but I still heard what I heard. Um, and so I had that psychosis type experience without the distress, which is not uncommon for people who have psychosis. Um, and I was able to talk with my husband about it as my depression got worse and worse, and he suggested that I go to the emergency department one night when I was feeling suicidal. So I did. They referred me out to the Institute of Living for their intensive outpatient program, and that is where I met my first RSS. We live in a culture where I felt like the mental health things that I had, the symptoms that I had were things I needed to deal with on my own. They were things that I needed to find resources to support myself, not things I should talk about at work, not things that I should always talk about safely with my peers, or even with my sisters, with my family members. So it's I wish that I had known sooner how open and accepting of a community and how many types of supports and connections to different types of care there are, and Mindmap provides that. They give contact with people locally, so it's not like you're driving down to New Haven or Yale if that's not your local area, um, to find the best fit for you as an individual, and to provide support and care as early as possible so that hopefully symptoms don't continue, they don't escalate, and your local mental health authority that MindMap connects you with can help you to find care that works for you. And it's not always traditional treatment. It's a matter of working with your clinicians, working with your care providers, working with your peer support specialists to find the right path for you. There are so many paths to care, and MindMap can help you get there. Yeah, that's one of the most important things about recovery support specialists is our stories are our superpower. They're what give us the ability to connect outside of a clinical or medical setting. And it's what helps to break the stigma of access to care. People are going to experience 3 in 100 people are going to experience an episode of psychosis at some point, and talking about it breaks that stigma. I think the more that we're able to integrate mental health care as part of healthcare, our society separates those two things. You go to your doctor, and then you have your mental health stuff. And your doctor will assess you for depression, your doctor will assess you for anxiety, and then they will refer you out to the mental health stuff. And we're making big progress, especially STEP and MindMap are working with doctors for more integrated care so that mental health is part of healthcare. It's so it's so important to feel like you've been matched up with the specialist that works for you. Um, and in my experience, your general practitioner, your primary care provider, they might give you a list of local therapists, and that's a good start. but especially for people who are experiencing something so unique as psychosis, having the more structured approach that Mindmap provides is so supportive. It's so helpful.